Fire Caves. This is one of our specials that we like to call the Fire Caves After Dark. I am one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
So this is kind of where we go when there's other things we want to talk about that are not just Deep Space Nine related. They will cover everything from, probably more Deep Space Nine to the other Star Trek shows, everything old and new, and then anything else
Right.
that's interesting us at the time. Like we did the whole one about the Expanse and the books.
Yeah.
Um, So now, if you just listen to the show, you'll know that David asked me a question about the show ER that I have been obsessing over for the past. I'm gonna say 4 months. Could be a little bit longer than that, but I'm gonna say 4 months. Okay.
15
So it
seasons is a lot of seasons to work through.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who don't know, I can burn through a series like none other. Like it doesn't bother me at all to like sit and I'll watch. I try to keep it at least to 3 to 4 episodes in a row. Sometimes I can do more than that, especially if I'm having difficulty sleeping. I will just stay up and I'll just watch them and watch them and watch them until I realize, oh crap, it's 6 a.m. and I have to go to work in two
Right.
hours. So,
Right.
so yeah, I've gotten through pretty much all of the show. And so to answer David's question, I am officially on season 14, episode 19. And there are 23 episodes, 24 episodes in the season. So I'm right there at the edge. No, I'm sorry. There are 21 episodes in a season, and I am on episode 19 of the 14th season. So this show is almost done for me.
Right. Wow.
Almost done for me.
Yeah.
And then we would just have to see what season 15 holds. Now, so do you have any questions while
I
we're
don't know.
here?
I mean, I guess you always text me whenever an actor that is pretty famous or well known is showing up, and you're like, "Oh man,
Mhm.
this actor was on here," including Sheree Adashlu.
Sheree Agdashley was on
Right?
ER. She
I
played
don't
the
know if
uh,
Yeah, I don't know if
mother
we
of one of
talked
the
about it
victims.
on one of these little episodes. I don't think we have, but yeah,
No,
as soon as she showed up that one time, you were like, "She's on here." So
looking
yeah,
looking wonderful, just wonderful as always.
yeah, a very
Um,
lovely lady, I'll tell you, man. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, and her saris in the Expanse, she always has on a different outfit every single time, every
I
time.
I I feel like now I have not read her character in the books yet, but I feel like where where it started off as probably a part of the character, I think Sheree just looked so good that over time it became a almost like a not necessarily a gimmick, but it was a very wise promotional tool to put her in these elaborate outfits because she wears
Right,
them well. She looks so good in everything that they feature her in the expanse. And I feel like at some point someone's like, you know what, just keep it going. Every
yeah,
scene we want her in something new. Just
right,
just do it.
right,
Because she does. She looks great. Even when she was wearing that white the space suit that she had to wear when she was
yeah,
on the Rossi, and then when she was in the Pincer Racer,
hmm,
she's like fantastic.
yeah,
She just looks great.
yep,
So
yep.
yeah, I don't know if and when they bring the Expanse back, which I'm projecting that they will bring the Expanse back.
I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah, gosh,
I I feel like once the Lord of the Rings stuff dies down a little bit on Amazon, I feel
Rings
like
of
someone will
Power.
be like, listen, we need to address this.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Um, yeah, on that point, in a way, one of the ways I've been kind of keeping myself a little pace to make sure I don't get too far ahead of you is I found the short story collection from The Expanse. This one is Memories Legion, and I believe it's 8 short stories from the series. Um,
oh.
one of them you'll already know because you've already watched the show. The story about the Epstein drive, which is how they
Oh, yeah.
learn. It's how they the technology that allows them to continually burn to maintain gravity, and then when they get to the halfway point, they flip around and they continue to burn to slow themselves back down, but again gives them gravity. The story of how the character who learned that technology if you've watched the show, again, this is a spoiler for the show and the short story. The man dies. The guy who figures this technology out accidentally figures it out while he's by himself, and he accidentally shoots himself out into deep space with the gravity just increasing, 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 and he dies. But the short story gets into his personal history a bit more. And I mean, the story is only about 20, 30 pages long, but when you're getting emotional and like teary eyed, like on behalf of a character who is, he's gonna die, especially if you already watched the show. You're like, oh man, like you want him to save himself, you want him, but you know that like the whole point of the story is that his technology radicalized this universe of characters. His technology was what caused so many things to happen. But learning his story with his wife, she's the one who's gonna profit off of his technology. But learning their little story, it was lovely. It's real testament to how well
Mm.
these authors are. But what's great, I this has been fun reading, but I've already finished the one I want to read right now because apparently these short stories occur throughout the whole series, and the very last one actually occurs after the end of the main book series. So this is a little just little cherry on
Hmm.
top for me. And I yeah.
So I've got some more reading to do. More reading. So yeah, so
Yeah.
David has moved on. You're now in book two,
I have about
right?
100 pages left in book two. Yeah.
Jesus, he's already almost done with book
Dude,
two. I
you
I have
know
not
how
finished
work
book
is
one.
at a mattress store. You got a lot of
So
downtime.
yes, so yes, I wanted to. Got to make sure we set the record straight. I don't want people thinking that I'm just like the slowest reader in the world here.
Yeah.
David and I used to work in the same profession. Not the company he works for now, but
Right.
suffice it to say, there's a lot of downtime in that job. A lot of times where you're just sitting there and literally nothing is happening. No one is coming into your location. Your phone's not ringing. There's just nothing to do but to read. And
Right.
if I had that time again,
Yes.
I would have finished these books already.
Oh, no
But
doubt. No doubt.
now my job keeps me, much busier. Plus, I have
The
my
kiddo.
little one that
Yeah.
also keeps me quite busy. So,
Oh
yeah, my ability
yeah.
to just sit and read is diminished. So,
Diminish. Yeah.
what I've been doing is, like I'll get up early and I'll do like a quick workout at home, or I'll go to the gym real quick, whatever, and then I'll come home and before I get my kid ready and everything else, I'll take like 30 minutes and I'll try to read a chapter at least
Right.
before she gets up. And then after I drop her off at school and everything else, I've got again like another 30 minutes before I've got to be at work. So I try to use that time to get some more reading in. And
Right.
then that's just kind of how I've been breaking things up. And it's just like my goal is to at least every time that I pick it up is to finish a chapter so that
Yeah.
I'm not totally wasting the time. Because I actually hate it when it's like I've got to put it down in the middle of a chapter. I feel like it's harder for me to like
Oh.
remember where I
Oh
was.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
always just try to like read through to the next chapter. So I feel like I should be done with it. I want to say within the next week, as in this coming week.
Right.
Hopefully I can get that done because
Right.
I'm not that far off. But yeah, and then I will, pick up the next one just to get to Avasarala, just so I can
Oh, I
kind of
can't
hear
wait.
the voice in my head again.
I can't wait. I'm telling you, man. By the way, I after I finish the second one, I do have something else I plan on reading in the meantime, so I'm not like
Okay, so then
book
fine.
five by the time.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
you stop. I will read the second one, then I will
Yeah.
also start the third one.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to read the third one until I'm like when
Gotta read the
I'm 100,
second.
yeah, 100 pages done. Almost when I'm almost done with the third one, then you're allowed to read it.
Ah, got it. Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
all right. All right.
That
I
way I
got
can
things I
take a
can
little
read.
that way I can take a little breather and it just makes me wonder because what is it called? Like I'm sure there's a term for it when you fall in love with fictional characters. I'm sure that there is something to that.
I don't
You know,
know. That's a great question. I've heard of that idea before, but I don't know if it ever been termed. That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
now I don't know if I'm necessarily there, but I do have a deep, abiding admiration for this fictitious character.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there's something
Well,
to it.
yeah. So I've been rewatching the show too, and I was on the show was in the scenes where they're doing the negotiations with Mars, the
Hmm.
peace treaty, and they question Bobby, the Martian um, UN
Which
soul.
Marine?
That's it. There it is. And uh, Avasarala wants to question her again, and they sit down. They're talking, and the Martian diplomat gets impatient. He says, "What is this? What are you asking here?
Where are
What
you
are you
going with
asking her?
this?
Where are you going with this?" And she goes, "I'm doing whatever I
Yeah,
goddamn
wherever I
like."
goddamn like. Yeah,
yeah,
that was the moment for me that won that
yeah,
character over. I'm not kidding.
yeah. I know. That's why I bring it up because that's a great little moment
That
because
was she
she
said it,
knows there's
and
something there.
she said it with such joy. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
like she was truly having a
I'm
wonderful
so
time.
glad you asked.
Yes,
Whatever.
like she couldn't wait. Wherever I goddamn like, and she
yeah,
just and there was not a trace of malice, and yet it was dripping with malice the
right,
like, how did she do that?
right,
It was
right.
world class delivery. Like, I'm not kidding. I remember when she said that line, I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Like, I don't even think I had been paying attention fully to everything else that was going on until she said that. Because I ended up rewatching that scene
yeah,
because I was like, "What did I miss
yeah.
that got them here?"
And
So,
I'll just say
yeah,
one small thing now. The relationship between Avasarala and Bobby in the show, or at least how their relationship develops, is better in the show than in the books. Not that the books again are bad. What happens in the books, there are different events in the books, but that whole Bobby Avasarala relationship is a little bit more developed. It's a little. I think they do a better job of creating the understanding of what happened in the show, which again I think is just great. That the it's like I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but I know they changed things. But if J.R. or Tolkien could have been there when they made the movies, I don't know if they would have been better. But part of me is like, I don't know. Like I should back up and say that I like the Harry Potter books more than the movies, and that's an example of modern
yeah,
storytelling. Um, but anyway, in this case, it really worked out. It
yeah,
These guys got a chance to really shape the show, and I think that a lot of times that actually improves the show because they actually got
yeah,
to they crack out some things a little bit better. But at no point am I reading the books and being like, I don't like this part. I don't like reading the books. It's more like I compare the two, and I get to appreciate both for being related but independent of each other.
yeah. I think that like you were saying, you don't know if J.R.R. Tolkien would have would have worked on the show. I feel like he would have. I feel like he would have definitely been a part of it, and I think that it would have enhanced the show because you got the creator and you get their input.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
um, so yeah, I think that would have worked out much better. Kind of like with George Martin and his bit of input that he had at least for a time on Game of Thrones,
Right.
I mean, then the show outpaced his writing and
Right.
they also needed to deviate so they could make certain things,
More
work for
accessible or
them
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for their world building that they were doing for the other shows that are, in the works.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, having the author's input is always going to be um, better for you. And the Harry Potter series is another great example of that. J.K. was involved
Right.
with those movies. So yeah, I mean, it's just to me it makes more sense, and I wish that like more things would do that. But I also understand that that the Hollywood market and how they do movies and TV shows and all that stuff is changing so much now, thanks to in no small part due to like streaming and the way that we have so much instant access. Like the ability of production teams to make movies is different now because they don't have the ability to make the same amount of money that they used to. Like if you think about it, and I believe that there was an actor who's talking about this recently. Like there was a time when, they would release a movie and if the movie didn't do well initially in the box office with the release date, they knew that they could make up a lot of that revenue through DVD sales and
Hmm.
video sales, right?
Right.
But now, because we have such instant access and there's so many different platforms and everybody's vying for stuff, and if it's not on Hulu or HBO, it's on Showtime or Amazon or whatever it is,
Right.
DVDs have just completely disappeared. So
Yeah.
unless you specifically are looking to buy the DVD, they just don't mass produce DVDs anymore.
Right.
So now that ability for them to make that money to continue to make and then also take risks on lesser known films and directors and so forth is gone now.
Right.
So yeah, that ability to, I guess that's where we would have companies now think about it, like Amazon that come in and kind of pick up the slack because I've never heard of James Corey until The Expanse.
Yeah.
And as great as these books are, and as great as the story that he wrote is,
Right.
would this have ever been a Hollywood blockbuster movie? I don't think so. And even if they tried it, there would have been massive rewrites. There would have been an incredible number of changes.
Yeah. Oh
And then
yeah.
this would have been probably a 90-minute movie at best
Right.
in order to tell all of the series story, not
Right.
just book one, but the entire series summed up in 90 minutes.
Right.
And it would have been terrible. And no, we wouldn't have the wealth of stuff that we have,
Right.
through this show.
Right. Yeah. I feel like this the show versus book phenomenon with this series is unique and just lovely in that sense that you can get it's the same story. That's what's so great about it. It's the
It
same
is.
story, but the little details about how certain things happen are just different enough to make the story like I'm watching the show and I am just as invested and interested in the show without feeling at all like I am just watching someone rehash words on a page. It really does
Yeah.
feel um
Now,
unique.
now
Yeah.
I will say, I like Miller in the show
Yeah, I think we talked
more
about
than I,
that
yeah,
privately.
more
Yeah.
more than I like him, more than I like him in the book. I like him in the
Yeah.
show.
In the book, he comes off more as the film noir detective,
Hmm.
kind of hard beaten, good guy at heart who is down on his luck. He likes to drink too much. In the
Yeah,
show, Miller's an asshole. That's the point. He's an asshole. He's corrupt. He's bribable. That first episode, I think it is.
yeah, he's
He
he's
yes,
very rough in the show, and
yeah,
he's got some. And just when you think that they're going to show kind of a softer side to him, it disappears. Like
right.
just you feel like you're right there on the edge, and then it's gone. You know,
Well, what's funny
in the
is, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. In the
No, I
book,
was
he
just gonna
he
say
comes.
in the
Yeah.
book, he ruminates more, and you
Yes.
get these
Yeah.
flashes of him talking to first the imagined woman Candace, and then that turns into the imagined woman Julie,
Right.
and there you start to feel his lament a bit more in
Right.
the books than you do in the show,
Yes.
and I don't know, I'm not there for it. I don't care that much, and they've tried to paint it as some kind of like weird love story, I guess. He's fallen in love with the subject of his investigation.
Right.
And maybe there was a time when that kind of romanticized notion would have appealed to me. But
Right.
right now in my life, it's awful. It's a stupid distraction that I don't I don't believe would happen. You
Right.
know, I've never been so invested in something like that it would take me away from being able to function the way
Right.
that it does him.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Yeah. Great books. Great show.
now,
Um. Yeah. Go ahead.
to bring us back, um, real quick, bring us back to Star Trek. I wanted to just update real quick. Um, as we know, uh, Lower Decks has ended its season run, and Prodigy has just started. Now, I don't know if you watched Prodigy yet. Okay. Well, Prodigy is the one that's on Nickelodeon that is
Okay.
geared mainly towards little kids. Now,
Right.
for some reason, that show took a break. Like they didn't even complete all of season one. And then it was like they did like 10 episodes and then they stopped. And now they're back and they've released the first two episodes of the second part of season one are out. So it's weird to me. Like, are we going to get like five more episodes in this season or what? Don't know. But I will say that these episodes are much better, and they've definitely upped their storytelling a bit. The other
Mm,
episodes I always felt like were a bit simplistic, which is fine because it's
for
geared towards
kids.
kids.
Right.
But now I feel like at least these two that they've done are not. Like, and not to say
Hmm.
they're not for kids, but there's definitely more to those stories that older people can watch them and get something from them,
Right.
which was not there before. So I'm interested in seeing where this story is going. This is the one that me and my daughter, we watched this one together. So that's another little um, cheat I get to watch the show. You know, but yeah, and then of course we're still waiting on uh, season 3, the final season of Picard to drop.
Right.
So
Okay.
hopefully they do that soon. I've heard everything from end of this year to middle of next year.
Right.
I don't think that it's coming out until like March. If I
Okay.
remember correctly from what they said during Star Trek Week back in September, it's not supposed to come out until like March. So I don't know why there's some other back and forth about when they're going to do it. If they said it during that week of all weeks, then that's the date. That's it.
Right.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, should I watch the TNG movies and like kind of like binge those real quick to watch Picard? But then I guess there's also the Worf angle with Deep Space Nine. Should I?
So since I don't know how they're going to portray Worf in this. Like, I mean, besides what we've seen in the teaser trailer.
Right.
So do you need to watch him in Deep Space Nine to be informed on this character? I honestly can't say. I think that watching him in the other Trek movies would definitely help you out because that's just kind of deepening your understanding of the dynamic that he has with the TNG cast
Right.
already. So
Right.
that so yeah, that would help you in that end.
Right.
But do you need to watch them in order to watch Picard at all? No, you
Okay.
don't.
All right.
So you can watch those anytime that you want to. They don't really do anything. Um, they don't do anything that you don't already know.
Okay.
Has Picard in the show Picard? Has Picard retired? Yes. So you watching the movies does nothing to stop that effect. And that's something that you knew already.
Right.
Like those are stuff like that is what I'm saying. Like those aspects of the show Picard, it's not gonna hurt you at all to watch the movies and whatever. No.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know if I'll get around to it anytime soon, but I know you're excited for it, so I definitely have the
Yeah.
reason to go for it. Um, but yeah, there
Yeah,
was
I
one.
just want to see season 3. I'm like at
Yeah.
this point, I'm just like I don't even really care about the other seasons. I just want to see Worf again.
Yeah.
But you were saying there's one what?
Yeah. So if we're ready to change subject, there was a video I watched today. It was a YouTube channel that I like watching. Before I talk about it, you've seen the movie I, Robot with Will Smith, I assume. It's probably maybe been a
Yes.
while for you. I really love that movie. It's one of my, I think, actually one of my favorites. Do you have a opinion on I, Robot either way? Do you
I
remember
do,
it
but before
enough?
we get there, I was just sitting here thinking about what I just said to you, and I was incorrect. Before you watch Picard, you do need to watch the movie Star Trek Nemesis.
Okay.
So there, that's it.
That's the one with what's his face?
That's the last one, and that has Tom Hardy as
That's it.
is in it.
That is the
Tom
one.
Hardy's
So
in it. You
gotcha.
do need to watch that one before you watch any of Picard. You can't even
Got
watch
it.
season 1 without watching it. So yeah,
Got it.
that's
Okay.
it.
Got it. That's what I figured. I figured there'd be something in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. Like
So
it, love it, hate it.
I didn't like it the first time that I watched it, but then I didn't know anything of Isaac Asimov either when I watched
Right.
it. So, hearing all of the, oh, it's this story and all the other kind of stuff. Okay, it took me a minute to get into it, but eventually I did. I enjoyed it more the second time when I watched
Mhm.
it. But then honestly, what helped me like that movie more, and I don't know if this is weird or not, but it was Battlestar Galactica. Uh,
No.
m- the
Yeah.
so
Okay. Yeah.
in that movie, with all the robots, and they kind of you've got the one that's different, that's uniquely programmed, and is it has it achieved sentience or not, and all that kind of stuff. And then
Right.
you have the massive drones of them that are all murderous and all that other kind of stuff. Um, there's a bit of that
Battlestar.
in Battlestar. There's a lot of that in
Yeah.
Battlestar.
Hmm.
This kind of where we're blurring the line between technology and sentience and so forth, you know. But yeah, again, when I watched it the first time, didn't like it so much. When I watched it the second time, by the time that second time watching came around, I had already watched all of Battlestar and had, you know, I think rewatched it even a couple of times. So I had just kind of a different appreciation of that story and trying to protect this, not just this robot, but this man's idea for that next step in evolution, which is what the
Yeah.
one was supposed to be, you know?
Mm. Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it just yeah, it's a very interesting movie. Um, Not necessarily my favorite movie
Sure. Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
time, but yeah, great in regards to like how it goes sci-fi wise. Now,
Yeah.
I never read all of the book, which is kind of my great failing, and it's not because I wasn't interested in it or whatever, but it's because I lost it. I ended
Oh
up
no.
moving. I moved and I don't know, I packed it in a random box or something. I don't know what I did with it, but I lost my
Right.
copy and
Mm.
now I have no idea and I've never bought another one since. So it's just
Gotcha.
like stupid of me to not go back and just be like, yeah, let me pick up this classic book of
Right.
science fiction that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because so there's a YouTube channel I like listening to. The guy, the YouTube channel is called Just Write, WRITE, like writing.
Hmm.
And he makes video essays about movies. Most of the time, I've enjoyed listening to his content, and I enjoy listening to this video he does on iRobot. But the episode of the video is titled "I Hate iRobot." He doesn't like it, or at least he has some pretty strong critiques for it. A lot of his critiques actually involve around as uh, he says that Isaac Asimov's original story, the book, which is actually a collection of short stories, doesn't have anything to do with the film. The film was actually originally written as something totally different, but when the producers got a hold of Isaac Asimov's writings, they slapped his three laws of robotics on the storyline. At the very end of the movie, they say suggested by Isaac Asimov stories, not inspired by, not based on, just suggested by. So his critique is like Isaac Asimov is a prolific writer. He deserves, well, the storytelling that he told is different than the movie. The movie has flaws, or at least he says it has flaws. And the reason I bring it up is because, like I said, I really like the movie. I think it's actually really good. I think you can critique it. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that this guy Just Right, the YouTube channel, is necessarily like go hate on him or anything. Just like he has a different opinion. But I found it really kind of fun listening to his video because it made me thinking about it. I'm like, I want to write it a comment like why I think he's wrong. Good natured, positive,
Mm,
critique of his points. 'Cause I think he has some things to say, like this movie, which was not perfect, it was a moderate box office success. Its presence has meant that other things suffered in its place, like Isaac Asimov's stories aren't really popularized in filmmaking or shows, in part because movies like this weren't as successful as they were supposed to be a reason to make more of
well,
his content, but they should have because there are stories that he has told, and he wrote a lot. I don't know if you know this, but Isaac
yeah,
Asimov wrote like 400 like short stories alone.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
But no, you know, and that point, you know, has been brought up several times in other conversations that I've had in regards to like things that should have been made movies and there should have been the success and everything else. And the one comment that I always see get made, and I agree with every time, is the Hollywood execs, whoever they are, they take these stories that are obviously already popular, right? And they turn
hmm
them into screenplays, but then they completely, you know, trash the source material
got
and
it.
crank
Yeah,
out this other thing that is the story in name only. And then they get mad when the people who were already fans go to it, watch it, trash it and then stop other people from going to see it. And I'm like, but you
Right.
were banking on a built-in fan base and then
Yeah.
you totally crapped on your fans. Halo does this. The new Halo
Yeah.
show does this. You
Yeah.
had a built-in fan base that was 20 years strong
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and you
Yep.
absolutely destroyed them in favor of this story that again is Halo in name only. You've gotten you just because you titled the character Master Chief, it's not the Master Chief. It's not the one that we have all that some of us have literally grown up with. When
Right.
the first Halo game came out, I was in 8th grade,
Right.
you know? And
Uh-huh.
then by the time we get all the way to this live action series, here I am a full on adult. And I'm not necessarily saying I want to, harken back to my childhood, my adolescence, or whatever. But there is a story that I definitely know that I have followed this whole time. And
Right.
then you give me this thing that had absolutely no bearing. There's nothing. There's nowhere any of this stuff actually takes place except for in the crazy fever dream of the coked up writers that you hired to hack out this garbage in the time limit you gave them to film your show. You were trying to capitalize more on the notion of sci-fi and series like The Mandalorian than actually giving us a story. Same thing's
Mhm.
going on with The Witcher on Netflix. That was part of the reason, or rumored to be, which I believe, the
Henry
reason that
Cavill's
Henry
pulled out.
Cavill is pulled out of the thing. He was an avid fan of the show. That's how you got him, or he was an avid fan
Books.
of the source material, the books. That's how you got him to sign on to do the role in the first place. He is an A-list star. He was going to do this show, and then you guys completely changed the source material. And the more he pushed back, the more y'all made him uncomfortable. And now he's out, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make me want to watch it at all. And they're like, well, we're going to stick a Hemsworth in there. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about Liam Hemsworth. I assume that he's a decent actor. I can't think of anything that I've seen him in. I'm not disparaging him
He was in the
at
Hunger
all.
Games as one of the not the main love interest that she ends up with, but like the guy that she grew up with as a friend. Like they would go out to the woods and hunt. That's the probably the role that most people would recognize him from. I
I never
couldn't
saw
think of
that.
anything else that yeah.
I
And that was
sorry.
that was a
I didn't
secondary part, not a main part either. So
I didn't watch Hunger Games. I don't know anything about it. Sorry. I just didn't watch it.
yeah.
I've got nothing against them, and it just didn't interest me.
Right.
Sorry. So,
Yep.
um, I've heard some people tell me that the books are great. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I just need to go and just read the books, and
Heck yeah,
maybe then
man.
I'll watch it. But no,
I
I
think my
never.
brother has actually maybe read one of them. I think he said the same thing, in part because the show and stuff like that. I think it was my
Yeah.
brother. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, they just need to stop doing that. Like, don't take something that has such a beloved fan base. And the thing about it is, like, I feel like a lot of this problem is because of Lord of the Rings, because of the success of those movies when they
Mm,
came out all those years ago. Because
mhm.
they were massively successful. They're
Right.
still successful. They're
I
still
know.
being watched and rewatched to the point that they remodeled a whole section of New Zealand to look like Hobbiton. It's still there. You
This
can go.
upcoming Saturday,
Yeah.
a group of friends, we are doing a original Lord of the sorry, the extended edition Lord of the Rings films marathon starting at
Oh
9 in the
Lord.
morning. We're gonna I mean it's 12 hours of just pure content, and that's not giving time for like eating lunch and dinner. So yeah, it'll be a full day of
Yeah.
watching. I'm looking forward to it.
And so, those movies again, massively popular, massively successful, but Peter Jackson stuck to the source material. He
Right,
he made sure that he was as dedicated and devoted to giving us as accurate a telling of that story on the big screen as
right,
possible. They still had to make edits. They still had to make some changes. They still had to make cuts. We know that that happened, but still, as much as possible, they were devoted to the source material, and that is what kept those. That's what keeps those movies alive. And I mean,
right.
I have not seen the new Amazon show yet. I still haven't watched it. But if they follow in that same vein, then they are setting themselves up for success.
Right.
Don't crap on, because that's where your fans are coming from. And now with that Lord of the Rings stuff, that's even more apparent because people, after watching those movies and falling in love with it either for the first time or all over again, they went out and they bought all of that stuff. They didn't buy just the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They bought The Hobbit. They bought the Silmarillion. They bought all of those things and read them and committed them to memory. And now you're doing a show about them. You had better
And
get
they
it
bought
right.
the little sword letter openers that they've had since they were kids and open their letters with them like I do.
Still to this day, Exactly. So I'm just saying that that's what it is, and that's how you're going to keep your success. Marvel knows this. When they did their all of those movies, and they based them obviously off of those comic books, they stayed true to their source material, which has got to be difficult considering the number of comic books
Mm,
that are out there about this stuff, right? But they still did it, and they maintained and they not only maintained, but they grew their fan base and their money revenue. So it's just like,
right,
if you're going to follow in those steps,
right,
why not keep the stuff that's which brought people in the first place? I hate that when they change it, and I'm not the only one who does,
right.
you know.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
I understand, like we've talked about this even with like with Dune, certain things had to be changed in order to be kind of more of an accurate reflection of our time or whatever. But that
right,
doesn't necessarily mean that the story has to change.
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
and going back to Isaac Asimov on this point, I mentioned it was about a year ago the Apple TV was doing the show Foundation based on Isaac Asimov's Foundation. Man, they changed so many things for the show. It is a total. It makes you angry. It makes me angry thinking about it. They did not
see,
do a faithful adaptation of the source material, and it. I don't think the show is getting a second season. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but it wasn't
well,
good.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. And I heard that Westworld got the axe finally as well.
Did they finally
That
get the
show,
axe? Oh
yeah.
man, I've been watching it
So
as you know, but I haven't heard. I hadn't heard anything directly about that. But I'll look it up while you keep talking.
yeah, I heard that season 4 is the final season. So there's that. But yeah, I mean,
Right,
I just want, if they're gonna do this stuff, if they're gonna do these stories that are especially based off of well-known books, or just not even well-known, but just books in general, something that we can
right,
easily go back and we can read we have access to read the source material. Don't change it, because there
right,
are people who've read it. There are people who are your fans. They're the ones who are going to be your go-tos first.
right.
And if you mess it up, that's it. I hear the same thing happened with that Neil Gaiman, his Sandman show, and it only got one season.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah. But anyway, all that
Well,
to say, if you want to go listen to Just Right talk about iRobot and why he didn't like it, his complaints, and he has a lot of really informative things to say about ISO content. I would say watch it. Anyone listening, it's a 30-minute long video, so definitely has a lot. I definitely love right. I disagree with Terry, and
well, you should. I mean, maybe take a day and do it. But now, before we close out this Fire Caves After Dark, I want to ask you a quick question.
yeah.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I was just discussing that with my parents. So the new house I'm in, I have two roommates. My parents are going to be flying out the day after Thanksgiving to go visit my grandmother in Virginia, but all of our other family members, like my brother and his wife and their kids, are going to go visit her family, and my sister's lives in North Carolina. So anyway, we haven't finalized plans yet. What's up with you?
Well, I'm kind of in a similar situation. My mother is going to be away. My older sister is also going. I think she was going to San Antonio or something like that. I don't know. And then I was kind of just left to my own devisings. And so, as you will recall, I did buy the Star Trek cookbook. So I have decided to do a Star Trek cookbook themed Thanksgiving. Now, not every single dish will be straight from here. There will be
Okay.
some classics or whatever, but I have decided that a couple of dishes from here, from the book, will be making an appearance on my Thanksgiving table. Since it's going to be essentially myself and Sophia, I plan to make like, I guess, smaller versions of things.
Right.
But I
Right.
was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, it would be interesting. One, it would be interesting to do. And if you're available, maybe you could stop by and we could do a little taste test
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're
Definitely. That
interested.
sounds great. Actually, if you're up for it, you're welcome to come here. Because again, I still need to work out the kinks with my roommates. Because the idea was like, well, you know, one of them, his mother lives not too far away. The other, his parents live like an hour or two away. I don't know what his plan is. But once I talk with them, I don't know. Maybe you could come here. I'd be happy to at least come test what you got. I don't know what my
Okay.
parents will be doing, but yeah, I guess we work out the details.
Sure. Yeah, we can work out the details on that. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that's what I was going to be doing. So I mean, I've already kind of
A
I
Star
already
Trek
know some of
Thanksgiving.
the things that I wanna make, and I just wanted to take a moment here and show some of these off. Now, I have been reading and rereading this book every so often, like just randomly, and so far I like what I've seen. So what's in here, there are a couple of things I don't agree with because I feel like the descriptions that we were given in in the Trek episodes uh don't match. Like, for example, the Vulcan plomeek soup. In this book, the the chef who comes up with the recipe makes it a very sweet, um, fruity dish, whereas everything had understood up to this point before reading this book was that it was more akin to like tomato soup. So I didn't like the sweetie fruity version that's in here. But
Okay.
then, of course, other things like Hasperat, the Bajoran dish, which we will be hearing a lot about in Deep Space Nine. I wanted to make that. I wanted to make this bread, which is called the Macapa bread. This is also Bajoran as well. And then there were, of course, several different drinks, everything from blood wine to Ractigino, which is Cisco's favorite coffee. And then, of
Right.
course, no meal would be complete without Gach, of course. So, yeah, I plan on making a few of these things and just being like, "Let's try it," and
Okay.
then, yeah, have some fun with it over
Gotcha.
this Thanksgiving time. So, yeah,
Wow.
we
Okay.
can coordinate a bit and, go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds good. I like that idea.
Hopefully, I don't poison anybody if I make the, Linkta roast, for example.
All right.
So, well, that will, I guess, do it for us on this Trek After Dark. Anything that you want to say or add?
I think I said it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us once again. You can rewatch this whenever you want to. I'll be posting several links to it on our Facebook and our Twitter page as well. And then just stay tuned because as I experiment with making things from the cookbook, maybe I'll just do like a quick little video and show you whether or not it was a disaster. So we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
But all right. Well, as we say always, until next time, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.